Right, so here's a quick property tip. So following on from my issue with the boiler, it's all back up and running now. But we had an issue where the boiler wouldn't start and our gas engineer basically had trouble figuring out what it was. So in the end, we went through the warranty for this boiler, so it was a battery boiler, and the battery engineer came out and he actually taught me quite a bit when it comes to the boiler and heating systems. So what it was, there's an error code on the boiler itself saying that part of it that's overheating, so it shuts itself down as a safety measure to prevent any damage from the actual boiler. So the engineer came over, they had a look at the boiler, saw the error message, and then he went around to each room and looked at each radiators to see whether they all have one of these things on top of it, on the side of it. So what this is a TRV, and this essentially is what regulates the temperature of the boiler. The radiators. And what happens is this sits on top of the valve here at the end, and you essentially turn it on and off. So that's one way to regulate it. Now, here's something that would save you hundreds of pounds in figuring out what the issue is in terms of maintenance, is that with the system, you actually need one of the radiators to be what they call a bypass radiator. And essentially what bypass radiator is a radiator that is constantly on. So this doesn't need to be on the valve at the end. So, but if all of these TRVs are on every single radiator, then what happens is there's no bypass, and the boiler will and can overheat because there's no radiator for it to bypass the hot water when it runs. So that's a safety mechanism. So the lesson here is to make sure when you do renovation or when you've got a property or the boiler all of a sudden stops firing for whatever reason, go and check every single radiator to see if it's got one of these things on. And if it does, then basically you just need to remove one of them from one of the radiators. And I was told by the engineer that the best position or the best place to remove it would be in the communal area rather than a bedroom. So then that radiator itself maintains a temperature, or when the boiler is being fired up, water passes through it, like hot water passes through it to cool it down. So essentially bypasses kind of like it being overheating. So yeah, so that's a quick tip. It's fascinating what you learn with these things, especially usually it doesn't get explained to you. I've had cases before where I had one of these removed from one of my properties and it wasn't put back on, and I thought that was an issue. So questioned why it was removed, but I was never explained in such detail of the reasons behind having a bypass, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think this is the knowledge that should be shared, especially for property investors that really don't know too much about the ins and outs of the build themselves. I mean, I'm a big dummy, so I actually don't really know anything without asking people that are more knowledgeable to just explain what the reasoning is. But once you learn it, you learn the knowledge, then it becomes part of you, and then you can problem solve over time. So yeah, hope this tip has been helpful. If you already knew about it, you let me know, or if you didn't know about it, keep in mind that if there's boiler issues, this might be the reason. So love you guys, and I'll see you again soon.